For the liturgical service, see All-Night Vigil. The All-Night Vigil is an a cappella choral composition by Sergei Rachmaninoff, his Op. 37, written and premiered in 1915. The piece consists of settings of texts taken from the Russian Orthodox All-Night Vigil ceremony. It has been praised as Rachmaninoff's finest achievement and the greatest musical achievement of the Russian Orthodox Church. It was one of Rachmaninoff's two favorite compositions along with the bells, and the composer requested that its fifth movement be sung at his funeral. Note: the title of the work is often mistranslated as simply Vespers. This is both literally and conceptually incorrect as applied to the entire work. Only the first 6 of its 15 movements set texts from the Russian Orthodox canonical hour of Vespers. History. Composition history. Rachmaninoff composed the All-Night Vigil in less than 2 weeks in January and February 1915. The All-Night Vigil is perhaps notable as one of 2 liturgical settings by a composer who had stopped attending church services. As required by the Russian Orthodox Church, Rachmaninoff based 10 of the 15 sections on chant. However, the 5 original sections were so heavily influenced by chant that the composer called them conscious counterfeits. Rachmaninoff's work is a culmination of the preceding 2 decades of interest in Russian sacred music, as initiated by Tchaikovsky's setting of the All-Night Vigil. The similarities between the works, such as the extensive use of traditional chants, demonstrates the extent of Tchaikovsky's influence. However, Rachmaninoff's setting is much more complex in its use of harmony, textual variety and polyphony. Performance history. The first performance was given in Moscow on March 10, 1915, partly to benefit the Russian war effort. Nikolai Danilin conducted the all-male Moscow synodal choir at the premiere. It was received warmly by critics and audiences alike, and was so successful that it was performed 5 more times within a month. However, the Russian Revolution of 1917 and the rise of the Soviet Union led to the government condemnation of religious music, and on the 22nd of July 1918 the synodal choir was replaced by a non-religious People's Choir Academy. It has been written that no composition represents the end of an era so clearly as this liturgical work. Analysis. The vigil includes 3 styles of chant: Znameny, a more recitational Greek style, and Kiev chant, a chant developed in Kiev in the 16th and 17th centuries. Before writing, Rachmaninoff had studied ancient chant under Stepan Smolensky, to whom he dedicated the piece. It is written for a 4-part choir, complete with basso profondo. However, in many parts there is 3, 5, 6, or 8-part harmony at one point in the 7th movement. The choir is divided into 11 parts. Movements 4 and 9 each contain a brief tenor solo, while movements 2 and 5 feature lengthy solos respectively for alto and tenor. The 5th movement, Nunc Dimittis, has gained notoriety for its ending in which the low basses must negotiate a descending scale that ends with a low B-flat. When Rachmaninoff initially played this passage through to Kastalsky and Danilin in preparation for the first performance, Rachmaninoff recalled that Danilin shook his head, saying, "Now where on earth are we to find such basses? They are as rare as asparagus at Christmas." Nevertheless, he did find them. "I knew the voices of my countrymen." Movements. Note: Numbers chapters 1 to 6 contain settings from the Russian Orthodox Vespers service, Numbers chapters 7 to 14 settings from Matins, and number 15 from the first hour, or prime. Recordings. The first recording of the vigil was made by Alexander Sveshnikov with the State Academic Russian Choir of the USSR for the Soviet Melody label in 1965, exactly half a century after after the work's first performance. Because of Soviet anti-religious policies, this record was never available for sale within the USSR, but was only made for the export market and private study. This recording still has a legendary reputation, in part because of its extremely strong low basses, but also because of the solos by Clara Corkin and Konstantin Ognevoy. The recording was first released in the United States in 1973 on the Melody Angel label. The March 1974 edition of Stereo Review noted that Angel's general manager Robert E. Myers had tracked down the recording, and had to prevail rather heavily on the Soviet powers that be to make it part of the trade agreement with Angel.